PR Connections Radio presents. This podcast is brought to you by LifeWave. Ready to elevate your wellness game? Meet X39 from LifeWave.com. This game-changing patch uses phototherapy to stimulate your skin, enhancing strength and stamina by channeling your body's innate energy. Simply apply it to harness infrared heat, naturally boosting your vitality. Want to learn more? Visit www.lifewave.com/VernD and step into a healthier, more active lifestyle today.
Welcome. Hi, everyone. Liberating Menopause here. My name is Lisa Vasquez. I'm your host here today on PR Connections Radio. I am overjoyed today because I'm on my fourth season. I want to thank everybody all over the globe who have tuned in and do watch this. It's such a pleasure to hear the downloads and the numbers that happen all behind the scenes. And I'm just excited that if I could touch one person and change a life in a woman's world, that's the blessing, because I've worked with so many and I've seen so many women change and come back with joy and happiness just to talk to me again and pick up where we last left off because of our conversations. These conversations I bring is a voice of freedom. It's a voice of letting you hear yourself. And I get to speak for you because sometimes we don't know how to express this. And we definitely have never really learned to nourish. We've always been thriving, which is pressure forcing, pushing through things. And it's all about really surrendering, because there comes a point where just surrendering is going to change everything, because your whole attitude will change with this. And so on our last conversation, I was speaking on, I do want to build up on that mindset on mental health and show you the playground that's really involved, that, we take our bodies to the gym, we take our hair to get done, we take our eyebrows to get done, our nails, everything on this outer shell is taken care of, but we forget about the inner sides. And again, I'm always that voice for that inner network, that connection, because those are the tunes that are really playing. But because we have never been nourished and taught how to hear the sounds of silence, and that comes from being in stillness. This is where we have a big problem, because, we today, especially today, we live in this world where, there's a lot of noise. There's, the computer world, right? The noise, the digital noise, as I said, the hormone messengers, they're always talking to you. But again, we've been pushed through to, ignore those signals, even though they're trying to tell us something's happening in our bodies, right? The emotional noise, the cultural noise, they shift. We shift every day into different things that we're learning. New team players come onto the job. They came from out of state, different countries, what have you. There's a lot of shifts that women, we adjust to, right, in the environments. But the one thing that we have never been taught, and it's unfortunate that we had to hear it through a COVID moment of a lockdown where we could have stillness, right, and hear that silence, because that's where it was. But then it burst out and it became very loud. And so, after hearing all these different things that are blocking out, I really want to enforce and bring up so many things that, again, we've never been taught. First, I want to get back into the benefits. The benefits that I have been talking about was the fact that, through national data and the show of the loss of all the unused PTO time, the 37% that never use care benefits, the annual physical screenings. Gosh, companies put $200 to $600 in wellness benefits, and they're never received either. So giving all this stuff back is because of our lifestyle, right? Women, we are busy. We have things to do. And to have another thing put on our list is when we go for jobs. I mean, and I know this from my own past history, so I'm not sure how much it has changed, but the fact being is that, when you get that benefit package, you make sure the family's included, you make sure this, you make sure that you got that list of doctors, there's certain things. So now you know that they're all in place. But how deep do you really go into the other benefits of what's a real benefit, right? So this FSA benefit, what really are women that almost never use them, and they don't use them is because it's a flexible spending account, and it is supposed to be a tool of nourishment, but it's money you earn, set aside before taxes, and to help you care for your body, your health, your recovery, your daily chemistry. See, it's all in there. It can pay for your therapy, your lab tests, your menstrual products, your supplements, your preventive care, prescriptions, child care, medical visits, dental vision, and so much more. But it's meant to be a garden fund, money to tend your, inner ecosystem is what I call it, because remember, we're raising a garden, and that's all being nourished inside behind the scenes, right? But here's the truth. Most women never use it, not because they don't care, but because they're drowning in labor. Because I have to admit, when it came time sometimes, one of my jobs that I worked at, I mean, I think it was like you get 4 hours every paycheck. So that's 8 hours a check, right? So how much time it took to accumulate one day was very complicated. And so, you may have planned, and this is me talking for me, that I did plan to take off, because I had a doctor's appointment or whatever. Oh gosh, but after the exhaustion and after, I thought, oh man, no, I don't want to wake up. I don't want to get up and have to go do that. So what do? We call up the doctor and we cancel and reschedule. And now we have to figure that out later because we're not going to do it now. And then we relax, right? And now that day has passed, but you could still have that issue either, bothering you, the pain is still there. You could have a toothache that you ignored and you numbed it so much with some numbing things that they have in the store that, you just ignored it and you could push through, right? And we get through. And these are the things that we have been taught to kind of do because we're so excited. And when you're using an FSA plan, that requires planning. A woman, we already carry so much, we have the grocery bills, the list that we have to create, the budget that has to come from that. The paycheck comes in and what's due this check and what's, here, how we're separating all those things. And then, the child care expenses and all those things. So with the FSA account, you have to do receipts, you have to have deadlines, you have claims, you have paperwork, you have tracking and submitting, and remembering that a woman who's already holding on to the world, we don't have that bandwidth, and it's crazy that I have to use that word, but that's where we're at today in these terms in our new language and things that we're doing to expand in this world. I mean, I don't think I ever heard them talk bandwidth back in my day, but today this is where we're at, and women, they don't have FSA, it really requires time, and that time doesn't exist. And so reading on the accounts of what's being lost on FSA, it's 4.2 billion in FSA funds that go unused. And the average employee forfeits $339 annually. So that's a lot of money that we're giving back, that we're not taking advantage of. And, it's a real hidden key of benefits, but it's going to take time. And so this is what this whole conversation that I host is all about, time poverty that we have, different things, how we've eliminated the clock pretty much, right? All these electronic devices that we have as reminders, especially if you're wearing those digital watches, right? You feel the vibe, something's happening. A lot of times it's used more for receiving the messages than looking at it as a clock. But, we have different ways of having new responses in our world today. And when you're exhausted and inflamed, foggy, overwhelmed, you don't reach for things, right? And that's what I was telling you. I didn't reach for that doctor's appointment that day. I wanted to just relax. And when we're taught to put ourselves last, right? The kids are going to go first for sure, your partners, maybe if you're daycare and your adult parents, but not for yourselves. And I've seen, and I'm seeing so much more of an increase, and we're going to get into those episodes about what motherhood has grown into, and all this extra care that we have to add to the plate of what started out as just so much, but has grown into receiving and doing so much more. And this is one person, that one woman, And so just understanding, first of all, that these benefits are there to help us survive, right? And well care for ourselves. But the point of the surrender is up to us, because if we try to use the thriving to get there, the force, the pressure, that type of attitude, it's not going to happen. But and then I don't want it to happen at the time where, oh man, I'm just really falling apart. I really got to get in there, because now there's a list of things. And when you see your doctor in today's world, they're only going to really take one or two of those things that they could address at that time, within that time lot that they have. So this is why we need to stop letting these things accumulate, and stop thinking that it's really not going to happen to us, because we see it so much, but we don't believe that we are part of that. And again, we really don't. We don't think that we are going to be part of whatever that illness is, going to take us over. Sometimes it could be things that you never even thought of. I mean, illness doesn't arrive suddenly. It really develops. And so talking to you and really bringing to you as a woman that we really do, we all have this garden, but because we are so dynamic and we need the power and the boost and the protection of this garden of our life, to be able to host a life long term without being involved in having a caregiver for yourself, right? I don't think in this new generation, in our new super agers, where they're really out there working out, challenging themselves, marathons and all that stuff, are seeing that they're caregiving. We're trying to eliminate all that stuff, because there's a lot of single women out there that are all alone in this world. And when the end time comes, who is going to be there? And is it going to be a stranger? So the point being is that while you're in this cycle of work and all those benefits are in there to care for you, it's your responsibility to care for you, because it's nobody else's. Today, it's hard to see anything coming, because our life today is inside all that noise I was telling you. It's blocking, it's not opening it up for us to really see it all happening. We just don't, and we really need to, because our life today is our responsibility, our health. Nobody can take care of us, nobody can sleep for us, and nobody can energize us. For us, we have to build all that, create all that, and monitor all our numbers in our life. That's why when you go to the doctor, they're taking, they're checking your numbers on your temperature, your heart, your blood pressure. It all consists of all these numbers. And if you don't have that outline content of your life, say starting at 30, where you're collecting those kind of notes and keeping track and seeing where you can improve. The whole goal of this world and new world of living is going for optimal living, because we don't want to just satisfy with just being healthy, because healthy can shift. You could be at a high healthy end ready to fall into optimal, or you could be in a low healthy end ready to fall down into the abyss of challenges of illnesses in your life. So when we surrender, everything grows. And in this season, I really want to expand on this, because it's not just about our hormone health care and listening to those messages. It's everything that has to support and work together. So we spent years thriving by force and are finally ready to grow and surrender. And that's where I really hope that I can bring people in to take those times, especially on mindset, because if we could get that mind going into all the promises that we bring in to give to our body, we can develop such a glow up that, as you grow up, you're just going to keep glowing and radiating this energy of beauty and setting it off. And who's going to believe that you worked 45 years, because time is not being seen so much in today's world, not with the activities and the tenacity that we're driving through, right? So because of the surrender, it's not giving up, it is giving into the truth. And if you really admit to yourself and really, I don't know if you've noticed how many worlds have collided. I mean, today here, I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada, and we're having these challenges up in Prim, Nevada, where that's the border of California and Nevada, right? And it's a lot of casinos that used to hold a host of playgrounds there, a lot of malls and food and gasoline stations, and that's where we get to drive if we're gonna go try to get those lottery tickets, and when you're headed to California, that's kind of your marker that you're about to contact California. I mean, Prim is a beautiful place. I have so many memories over there, but it's actually closing down and in July, and there's so many people that had jobs there that are losing their homes, their jobs. I mean, the gas station's about to close down, so they're not even going to have that. There's so many complications and challenges that they're about to go through. And, it's all about really how much the world, we do need prayer. We need a lot of prayer. We need an economic prayer visual just to protect our friends, our family, and our whole world, because we're all connected. And this is all going to, happen and suddenly, see, because they didn't see that coming. Nobody did. We're all kind of shocked that, wow, they're really closing it down. I mean, these are markers, and they're not going to be there marking anymore. So, giving into the truth of these whispering moments that are in your life, of what's wrong with you, of how you're feeling, of how, maybe, you say to yourself, oh, I really got to stop ignoring this. I really got to start covering it up with this numbing stuff for my toothache. I really have to, and you really should, because of the challenges that come afterwards. That's only the beginning, right? That's the gateway. I mean, it could have so many effects, so many different things that can go wrong, and affecting toothaches. I'm really good with oral health because I have a history from my mother, so making sure mine is good and in order. I go to the dentist and I get to talk to him and tell him. I mean, he doesn't even have to report to me everything that's happening, because I could just spell it all back to him, because I'm that versed on what's happening. And so there's a lot that happens there. And, it comes to a point where sometimes you just want to have it all taken out, because, gosh, there's so many challenges. But, as long as you maintain it and keep it and, do your daily do of, brushing your teeth all the time and all those things that nourishing, then, we can create a lifelong oral health promise to ourselves, right? I mean, there's so many people in the grave from centuries ago that still have their teeth, and not because they didn't have the food we're eating today with all the high sugars, but, outside of that. And it wasn't because they had everything to care for themselves, but they were very holistic and organic, because that's all they did have then at that time. So it was all just the body in balance. And that's the idea of how we should be living today. But we've been taken away from that, being blindsided by all these trickery sugars and all these things that, these were rewards for us. This is how we we're trained to be rewarded, and we still do that with our children. And promise them this, promise them that. If you just calm down, I'll take you for this. There's always a promise. But the one thing we never promised ourselves is how to be healthy. And we believed that because we went to the doctors with our parents, right? They always took us for these checkups. So we thought they were really the ones that were in charge of our health. And no, that was for the checkups because you were doing good. You didn't have to go through other things, right? But if you weren't, then, there's a lot of challenges for kids today. And that gets sad too when you really see the inside world of a medical field and watch all these things. It's really being the mechanics, like a vehicle mechanic, right? And we only have one vehicle, this body, this is it. There's no trade-ins and there's no leasing on this. And it's just how far do you want to take it or have it take you, really? And so this is being in surrender is the moment women stops fighting her biology and starts listening to it. And so again, these are things that, did you ever hear that? Hey, let's start listening to our biology. No, let's start listening. Oh, I got a great hairdresser, or I got my nails done at this great place and I have a new nail tech. These are things, but listening, no, not like that. We have to listening to our biology, where somebody says, hey, what did you do for your heart today? What did you do to increase bone health today? Did you go to the gym? Did you work out? Did you do weight training? What's your best thing? Are you just doing, some of those hip hop dancing programs, things that are really energizing you and getting you going? What is creating that harmony in this body? Or did you just drive straight home, go home, and, walked into some more noise where you don't get to hear yourself because there's so much more to do now before you could even rest your head? So like this, there was a flower one day, and, I didn't notice how this had a big effect in me until I started talking about this story. So, a single yellow flower blooming in a pile of rocks, and she doesn't rise through pressure. She rises through release. She had no choice, right? This yellow little flower, she's growing up in rocks, curved side. I mean, this is a flower that I witnessed, and this is why. And this was in 2006. I'll never forget it. I took pictures of this thing because I know that workplace can be so stressful. I mean, I read about it today. I told you in mammography, there's Facebook pages and stuff, and you could hear the text and you could hear what they're saying today. And those conversations are so painful because of how much it's damaging the person in her voice, and how, the collaboration of women, they have cliques, they have this, they have that. There's so much of that you have to go through in any job, right? Women, I mean, this all starts when we're young, being challenged by conversations, girls picking their little cliques, their little groups, this, that. It doesn't stop. I mean, become a super ager and you're still living in that same thing. Women still talk to each other and click and talk about you or what have you. So in this one particular job that I had, it was a very tense job. I mean, it was so tense that there was no place to even take a seat to sit down. So even to walk outside, that was the only saving grace for me. And then I'm standing on this busy street because that's where it's at, right? There's no chairs, there's nothing, and you only have your 15 minutes, so you got to go back in. So I used to go stand by this curb, and in the line marker of the sidewalk, it's rocky and stuff. No, actually, there was a whole garden of rock. And there was one flower that was growing, one yellow flower. And I used to visit that flower every day. That was kind of my saving grace. That was kind of my aha moment. That was my relief because I didn't have much and I was going back in, and there was a lot of stress in the job, the patients, and then the techs that I work with and all those things. And then the doctor, the pressure of that, because of being a small clinic. So there was a lot. And this was my only saving grace for me. And so I would watch that, and I just couldn't believe there was nothing else around this. There was no greenery. There was nothing but, rocks. But this flower grew yellow, bright, and beautiful. And I was so amazed. So I'm going to tell you the story of this flower blooming in a pile of rocks. She doesn't rise through pressure. She rises through release. She designs her own ecosystem. She becomes her own garden. This is the shift from fixing. Can you imagine that? To designing. And that's what this is all about today. Is I want you to start designing. We got to stop fixing because we're breaking, because we are not protecting, because we're too busy. And now we have to somehow try to change that around because our future has changed. We're not living in the worlds we used to live in when it had the work place before. We're in a faster world because time is everything. Business is numbers. As you know, my beautiful medical system has changed. It's all a lot of business. And this is what I hear them talking about. And it's sad. It's sad because I've seen it happening as I was evolving out. And so depending on where you're at, people who work in the grocery stores, I see them, they have to get so many people in, they're looking at a clock, they're being watched. There's so much time on them that, is being counted. Every minute has to have a point of a dollar sign, of a cent sign. So, right, as I was talking about, she becomes her own garden. And this is the shift from fixing to designing, from performing to becoming, from surviving to cultivating. Because when you surrender, when she surrenders, she discovered that surrender is an alignment. In your alignment, you find your assignments. And it's a beautiful place to be because the moment she stops fighting her hormones, her cycle, her energy, her needs, her body, her space, her body's wisdom, and starts partnering with them. Surrender is how the whole feminine wins. Not through force, and not through hustle, not through thriving, but through design. And I just want to bring design to you because we don't know how to do that. And we feel that designing is going through, the hairdresser, the salons. Nobody goes for that tune-up and looks at it as a beauty factor. Nobody looks forward to going to the doctor because they're going to go have a good checkup. They don't think of it that way, and this is how we should think about it because today we want to build frameworks. We want to build a workplace where you participate in everything that's being there, and stop ignoring what's being given to you because we don't have time. And if we don't have time, unfortunately, if the illness comes, that illness, the body will take you down and you'll have nothing else but to make time. And then you'll be in a more panic because, again, in places that I worked, it wasn't easy to get sick. You'd be written up for the days off that you call in. You'd have points against you. You'd be challenged by all this. So on the good side of that thing, they really made you take care of yourself. And, I benefited from that and I'm really happy for that moment. But knowing that you can't even fall apart, and trust me, I worked with people that they were falling apart right before my own eyes. But, as a single woman that particularly that I'm talking about, she had this leg knee issue and she wanted to have the surgery, but she couldn't unless she lost the weight because that's the doctor's orders, right? She barely had time to get to the doctor and she wasn't going to stop to do the weight loss thing because emotionally that was fulfilling for her. And so it took a lot. And unfortunately, when COVID did hit, she was affected and she was released from working. And now all that she put off piled up on her, and now she had to take it out. I mean, one of her biggest fears was that, she had a child, but they didn't live in the same city, so she was alone, and who's going to take her? Who's going to be there to help her? I'm sure at that point when she had to make the time, all that came together. But when we're thinking about it and looking at it and not seeing it, there's a fear, and no, I'd rather just keep on going. So this is where I'm going to ask you to stop and think about this. Really look at yourself and look around you and see. I'm sure you've had histories with people, you've talked, you've seen people go through challenges with their body. And if there's any way that you could take the other road and a new path to change that, these are the conversations I want to bring to you. And I understand that even though I teach and educate on this, doesn't always mean the concept will be received. Because sometimes you could ask later, what did you get out of that? And totally off the charts of what I was talking about. So you will hear reiteration and repeats of some of these conversations that I'm talking about. And the biggest part is going to be that mindset. Because once we can really get a control of working the mindset with the body, cognitive and physical together, we're coming into a body of balance gracefully. So everyone, have a wonderful day. And thank you again for joining us here at prconnectionsradio.com. Lisa Vasquez coming to you with purposeful education for your future in growth, in life, in developing everything you want in your dreams of hopes for the future. Take care. Liberating Menopause. Bye, everyone.
PR Connections Radio presents. This episode of Liberating Menopause is brought to you by Classy Communications PR and Advertising. Classy Communications provides public relations and marketing solutions for businesses, professionals, and nonprofit organizations. They can deliver the true meaning of your business with press releases, social media marketing, web development, email marketing, book publishing, and much more. Wherever your potential clients are, they can help you connect with them. Visit classycommunications.net to learn more about their suite of services that can help your business stand out from the rest. Classy Communications is your solution